This podcast of One Voice for the Generations is an interview series sponsored by More Than Cake. Please visit us at www.morethancake.org to hear Joe Miller interview leading voices on issues that are important for the coming generation of Christians.
All right, so with that little bit of introduction, I want to say good afternoon, Paul. Thank you for joining us for this interview. Most of my readers at More Than Cake are probably familiar with your book, The Shack, but why don't you tell us a little bit of something about yourself that my readers may not know?
Well, just that I grew up a religious kid. I'm a missionary kid and a preacher's kid. So I've been inside of modern Christianity my entire life. That I don't really see solution in religion, but in relationship.
That's a good way of introducing yourself. I think that kind of fits with what most people might be familiar with as they've read your book and maybe read some other interviews. By the way, I just want to let you know, one of the reasons I contacted you is because I asked our readers when I presented this idea some list of names, and your name came up from several of them. And so I think they're interested in hearing what you have to say today. So thank you again.
Thank you. You be part of it.
Yeah, hey, well, this interview should be pretty short. It's actually really just 5 questions, and it's the same 5 questions I'll ask everybody along the course of this series. And so here's the first question. There's obviously many hot-button issues facing the church in the West: abortion, gay marriage, gender equality, social justice, healthcare, terrorism, war, human rights, poverty, the list goes on. For increasing numbers of Christians, politics has become the primary battleground for the resolution of these challenges. So the first part of this question is, do you think it's possible for Christians to engage in the political debate without compromising their faith?
It's possible, highly unlikely. Politics is a beast. And I know I've got many friends who are inside that political beast, and they really struggle to try to maintain integrity and those kinds of things, but so often it's co-opted. And fundamentally, politics will never be a solution. It's always going to be a new political order. One of my favorite authors is Jean Ellul, Ellul. He's a French sociologist. Some theologian. He probably wrote 40 books on sociology and 40 books on theology. One of the best minds as far as technological society and how politics plays such a central role in trying to be the center point of redemption for humanity.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. It's got to be, and as crazy as it sounds, it's going to be how you change your heart and how you go through a healing process and become an authentic human being that is ultimately going to change the world.
Yeah.
It's not going to be through political order and control.
Yeah, I would agree 100% with you on that, and I've written about that myself, but I think that's hard for a lot of younger people to see that, because they see it as impractical, I guess, in some sense. So what guidelines would you offer the millions, really, of young Christians and even older Christians struggling to address these difficult issues?
Well, it's going to come down to one's own heart and relationship with God. It is, because you know what? Only God is big enough to know how to put all this together. And you can be caught up into the immensity of the problem. Mother Teresa had a great response to a question. She was asked one day, Mother Teresa, you are probably in a position to see the pain in the world better than anybody else in the world. You see it in staggering reality. What do you do about that? What do you do about all the huge issues that are facing humanity and man's inhumanity to man? And her response was, I do what's in front of me. And I love that response, because we live in a world where we think that it's going to be the big things that are going to finally accomplish. But you know what? We've been trying big things for how many thousands of years now? And it doesn't result in anything but bigger problems. It's going to be the change of the individual heart and doing what's in front of you and hearing the voice of the Spirit. What is God saying? And becoming an authentic human being who loves. Let me tell you, love is a power stronger than anything that this world has to offer. between politics and religion. And let me tell you this too, is that forgiveness is a force, and so is kindness and gentleness and reconciliation, and all of those things which seem so strange to us, program-oriented, management by objective, 5-year plan kinds of people. Let me tell you, I've listened to how many graduation speeches now, and all of them are basically the same. We screwed up. Now it's up to you to fix it. Good luck. And I tell you, it's just a bunch of BS.
Yeah.
The reality is it's going to be the transformation of our own heart and how that influences our spouses, if we get married, our children, our friends, the people we meet on a daily basis. That's what's going to change this world.
I think you're right on. I think those things seem so impractical, and maybe that's because our system of religion has made them seem impractical, but I think they are the real practical solutions. I think you're right on that.
And then within that context, opportunity will be there and will have influence, just as God opens up that opportunity, and that influence will also change other individuals.
I think you're right on. I agree. Well, the second question is dealing more with sort of the influence of postmodern philosophy, and it continues to have a strong influence on the church and the culture around us. So in what ways, Paul, do you think that postmodernism has been a positive influence on the Christian faith?
Well, I think it's been a hugely positive influence because it's challenged the paradigms of religion that is inside of Christianity. We have to recognize that there's a Christianity that God is as opposed to as any other religion, because it's all based on performance. And it's based on the individual, trying to, driven by guilt and fear, perform himself into the affection and the approval of God. And postmodernism says, you know what? If it doesn't work, forget it. And I think that's really healthy. And I love theology, but let me tell you, in theology, you're allowed to keep a bad idea for a couple thousand years just because it's fun. But when you're dealing with people, when you're dealing with people who are owing and moving and dialoguing, when you're dealing with people, then you want something that works. And I think postmodernism is a challenge against institutional systems and non-story kinds of way of relating to the reality.
So would you say then, I guess, what I hear you saying is the sort of the practical or pragmatic side of postmodernism has been one of the real positive impacts on Christianity? I
would say that's true. And, postmodernism also, is connected, I think, to nihilism.
Well, yeah, and that's great, because that's the next question. So what ways has it been the negative influence? Because, whether you look at Enlightenment philosophy or postmodernism, both have had positive and negative influences, I think, on Christianity. Neither one has been a kingdom philosophy or the kingdom worldview, so that they're all flawed in some ways. So I guess that's looking at that negative. What has been the drawback, do you think, in postmodern worldview?
Well, the drawback is that it's fundamentally humanistic at the core, and that's why it will never be something that will work as a movement or anything else. That it's all up to human beings to find a solution within themselves, and you know what? That hasn't worked either. And but some of the ways that it's challenged existing systems, that's fine, but within itself, I don't see anything but the very seeds of its own destruction, because it's basically saying it's going to come down to the human collective come up with a solution, and not realize that we are designed to be in relationship with God. That's just fundamental. It's not anything that can even fight against. We are designed to be relational beings, and those who are in community and those who then within the context of that relationship can begin to bring healing